Good morning, class. I'm Miss Irene Duro, your teacher for today. So, in this lesson, we are going to dive into a short story called How Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife by Manuel E. Arguila. Have any one of you read the story before? Great! So, we're going to focus on analyzing the characters, the setting, the plot, the theme, and the values portrayed in the story. So, let's get started. For the objectives of the lesson, read the story How Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife by Manuel E. Arguila. With comprehension and identify the characters, the settings, the plot, and the theme of the story. Compare and contrast the life of the characters and the story. And lastly is to develop an appreciation for the values portrayed in the story. For the introduction, How Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife is a short story written by Manuel Arguila, a Filipino writer and a poet. So the story was first published in the Philippine Magazine in 1940 and is considered one of Arguila's most popular works. This story is about a man named Leon who brings his new wife home to meet his family for the first time. So as they travel from the city to the countryside, his wife experiences the stark contrast between urban and rural life. So throughout the story, we see the characters navigate cultural differences and family expectations. So here's a copy of the story for each of you. I will give you 20 minutes to read the story on your own and mark any unfamiliar words or phrases. So after you are done, we'll discuss the characters, the settings, the plot, and the theme of the story together. Okay, so I guess everyone is done. Now let's discuss what you read. So what is the setting of the story? What is the plot of the story? And finally, what is the theme of the story? Great job, class! Now, let's dig deeper into the characters of the story. Take a few minutes to compare and contrast the lives of the main characters in the story. Think about where they came from, their values and beliefs, and how they behave throughout the story. So after you are done, we'll discuss our findings together. There are four main characters in the story. First, we have Brother Leon, the older brother of Baldo, who is studying in Manila to become a doctor. And second, we have Maria, Brother Leon's wife, whom he brings home to the rural countryside for the first time. Third, we have Baldo, the younger brother of Brother Leon, who serves as the narrator of the story. And lastly, we have Labang, the carabao that Maria rides on the way to their home. Okay, so let's move on to the description of each character's personality, traits, and values. So first, we have Brother Leon. So he is intelligent, ambitious, and well-educated. He values education and has high expectation for himself and his family. So second, we have Maria. So she is beautiful, graceful, and charming. So she comes from a wealthy family in the city, but is humble and respectful to the rural custom and traditions. Third, we have Baldo. So he is a young, innocent, and a curious. So he admired his older brother and is excited to meet his new sister-in-law. So he is observant and sensitive to the feelings of others. And lastly, we have Labang. So he is a strong and sturdy carabao, well suited for farm work. So he is gentle and obedient to his owner Maria. So he is an essential part of the rural way of life and value as a source of livelihood and transportation. Okay, now that we know the characters, let's talk about the setting of the story. Where does the story takes place? That's right. So the story takes place in both the countryside and the city, with the former depicted as a peaceful and traditional environment and the latter portrayed as a bustling and a modern location. So the lifestyle in the countryside is shown as simple and close to nature, while in the city it is more fast-paced and sophisticated. Now let's talk about the plot. Can anyone summarize what happened in the story? So the story, How Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife, is about a young woman named Maria who visits her husband's family in the countryside. So the conflict arises when Maria experiences culture shock due to the difference between in her city and the country lifestyle. So the rising action consists of Maria's journey to the countryside, while the climax occurs when Maria crosses the field riding on Labang, her husband's carabao. So the following action is when Maria meets her husband's family and adapts to her new life in the countryside. And the resolution comes when she realizes that she loves her husband and his family despite their differences. Next, let's discuss the themes of the story. So what do you think are the themes that the authors wants us to take away from the story? The themes of the story, how Brother Leon brought home a wife, include the clash between the city and the country lifestyles, the importance of family and tradition, and the power of love to overcome differences. So the story portrays the values of respect for one's cultures and heritage, the willingness to adopt and learn from new experiences, and the strength of familial bonds. So that's it for our discussion of the characters, the setting, plot, and the theme of the story. So here's the guideline for our group activity for today. Analyzing the assigned characters. Number 1, how does Brother Leon embody the values of his culture and upbringing? Number 2, we have what are the conflicting values and beliefs that Maria faces when adapting to a new way of life? Number 3, how does Baldo's relationship with his brother change over the course of the story? And lastly, number 4, what does Labang represent in the story and how does his fate reflect the clash between the city and the country lifestyle? So here's the rubric for grading the group activity. Criteria, depth and accuracy of analysis, we have 40%. Use of quotes and examples, 30%. Effectiveness of presentation, 20%. Participation and teamwork, 10%. Recap of our discussion and summary. The lesson focused on character analysis and values in the story How Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife by Manuel E. Arguila. So the students were able to identify the characters, the settings, the plot, and the theme of the story, and compare and contrast the characters' lives in the countryside in the city. So they also analyzed the characters' personalities, the traits, and values, and discussed the values portrayed in the story and how they can be applied in daily life. So the lesson objectives were reviewed as a visual representation of the lesson's main points and provided through a summary slide. So for your assignment, write a story essay, 250 to 300 words, on the values portrayed in the story How Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife by Manuel E. Arguilla. In your essay, discuss how the character's action and decision reflect these values and how these values can be applied in daily life. This is for our essay rubrics. Yes, that's all for today. Thank you for listening.